Hi everyone, Sam Brooke here from Happiness Club. It's Friday the 29th of August and the weather's pretty miserable, to be honest, but it's sunny in my heart. So today I wanted to talk about the Buddhism that I practice with SGI, which stands for Soka Gakkai International, and the power of Myoho Renge. I was listening to the audio version of the New Human Revolution this morning, and I heard this experience that just blew me away, and I really wanted to share it with you. So I set myself an impossible goal. I set myself the impossible goal probably about a year ago to help 1 million people learn to be happy and get what they want. And recently, as a result of a couple of Buddhist meetings I attended, I realised that goal was way out in the future and it was very woolly, and I brought it forward to November the 18th, 2025. So I've set myself a determination, as we say in Buddhism, or impossible goal, as Michael Neal talks about, however you want to call it. I've brought that forward to November the 18th. Now, clearly it is impossible to help 1 million people learn to be happy and get what they want by November the 18th. However, I'm a big believer, as Susie Ashworth says in Infinite Receiving, that faith plus action equals miracles. Now, it has been hard to keep the faith recently because I've had a number of things come up in the last couple of weeks that have just floored me. Massive obstacles, but also in Buddhism we believe that obstacles are a sign that we're on the right path. And there's a Gosho, which is a Buddhist scripture that says that when obstacles appear, the wise will rejoice and the foolish will retreat. However, it has still been difficult to maintain my faith. And then I heard this from the book this morning that just for me really demonstrated the power of faith, the power of determination, and the power of taking action. So I'd really love to share it with you. Among the Los Angeles members was a woman named Kazuko Elik. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. She was a nurse who had started to practice Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism in Japan in August 1954. Inspired by her mother's having overcome palsy as a result of this faith. The following year, an American working for the US military's broadcasting network in Japan asked her to marry him, and she accepted his proposal. However, his mother violently opposed the marriage. Unable to let go of her anger towards Japan, America's enemy during the war, she sent Kazuko a letter in which she had written, "I'm not going to have my son marry a Jap." But Kazuko was not going to let the woman get the better of her. When she received the letter, she promptly sent off her reply, "Shut up, Yankee, don't tell me what to do." This war between Japan and the United States was still raging between this would-be Japanese bride and her future American mother-in-law. Kazuko's husband went ahead and completed all the paperwork for their marriage and then returned to the United States alone to wait until the immigration authorities granted his wife permission to join him there, but then it was discovered that she had tuberculosis, regarded in those days as an incurable disease, and her application to enter the United States was denied. As a nurse, Kazuko was well aware how serious an illness like tuberculosis could be. She felt as if the world around her had suddenly turned dark, but she refused to admit defeat. "I have faith," she thought. She applied herself to her practice with a vengeance, energetically introducing others to the Daishonin's Buddhism and encouraging her fellow members. Kazuko and her mother-in-law continued their blistering assaults through their mail for some time, but when the mother-in-law learned that Kazuko was a nurse, her attitude suddenly changed. It turned out that she herself had practiced nursing for many years. Her mother-in-law now wrote, "Please get well and come to America as soon as possible." She opened her heart and gave her blessing to the marriage. Kazuko wept when she read the letter, as deep gratitude for the benefit of the Gohonzon welled up within her. So just a side note here, the Gohonzon is what we chant to, and we're not chanting to something outside of us. The Gohonzon represents our own Buddhahood, She recovered steadily from her illness, growing healthier each day. Having submitted all the paperwork necessary to move to America, she then checked into the US military hospital in Kanagawa Prefecture for tests. Apologies, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Although her condition had markedly improved, she was not yet completely cured. From Kanagawa, she was flown by military airplane via Hawaii to San Francisco, where she was placed in a suburban hospital. Her recovery here was the final hurdle to beginning her new life in America. The doctor informed Kazuko that she would have to stay in the hospital for a month. The cost would be around $500. All she had, however, was $150. Her husband, who had returned to the United States ahead of her, was struggling financially, and the money she'd brought with her was supposed to be a precious nest egg for the start of their new married life together. I can't afford to stay in the hospital that long, she thought. With faith, I'm going to recover from this illness in 1 week, no matter what. In her hospital room, Kazuko Ellick chanted with powerful determination. She also resolved to teach people at the hospital about her faith, but she did not speak English. Using a Japanese-English dictionary, she looked up words that would be useful in her propagation efforts and jotted them down on cards. Equipped with these cards, she would boldly step out into the hospital garden and suddenly call out loudly in heavily accented English, "Listen!" With all the people in the garden looking at her in open amazement, she would continue, "Myoho Renge number 1. If you want to go home, speak Myoho Renge." She felt no shame or embarrassment about what people might think. She gave no thought to common sense or the social propriety to which all Soka Gakkai members ought to pay heed. Her sole concern was to cure her tuberculosis quickly and be released from hospital. After making her declaration, she returned to her room in high spirits and started chanting frantically. The content of her prayer was as follows: "Gohonzon, are you listening? I've just sown the seeds of Buddhahood in the lives of 40 or 50 people. I'm exerting myself in Buddhist practice with all my might. You know that, don't you? Therefore, please promise that I can definitely check out of the hospital in 1 week's time. And by the way, I only have $150. Please make the hospital bill no more than $125. I need the remaining $25 to rent a room after I'm released." She was utterly serious. Each day was devoted from morning till night to Daimoku and her somewhat unusual style of propagation. After her first week at the hospital, she received the results of her test. It was what she had prayed for. She was going to be released. She danced for joy, and the bill for her hospital stay came to exactly $125. As she left the hospital with her husband, who had come to pick her up, people throughout the hospital leaned out of their windows and called out to her. Kazuko turned and waved energetically to them, crying out, "Hello, hello!" The clamouring from the hospital ward windows was the shouts of people wanting to know Kazuko Ellick's so-called magic word. Okay, she said cheerfully. She went back inside and wrote down the English spelling for Myoho Renge on pieces of paper and went around to each ward to hand them out, emphasising strongly as she did so, "Speak, go home." What she was trying to convey was, if you chant this phrase, you will be able to go home. It was anyone's guess, however, whether her message actually got through. So I think that's probably the gist of it. There's a bit more to it, but I think that's the main point. So, like I say, I just found that so inspiring and just really made me even more determined that I will find a way. I will overcome these obstacles. And I heard on the Buddhability podcast recently, somebody said victory is guaranteed, defeat is not an option. So I found that really inspiring this morning. It was exactly what I needed to hear. I wanted to share that with you. And just to add that if you're local to Suffolk, Ipswich, Suffolk in the UK, we are going to be at the Ipswich big, I can't remember exactly what it's called, something like the Big Multicultural Festival on Sunday at Alexandra Park in Ipswich, where you can learn more about Buddhism and learn about the SGI and learn about an exhibition that we're bringing to the area next year, which is called Seeds of Hope and Action, and it's all about making positive change in the world. So thank you so much for listening. If you are still listening, I hope you are. Thank you so much for following and supporting Happiness Club. Love you all to bits. Sending so much love and juju as usual. Mwah!